Hey, Alon.
Hello.
So this is episode 138, and this is your third time being here. You were on episode 30, you were on episode 49, and now almost 100 episodes later, you're back again.
Yeah.
It's possible we make too many episodes. It's
Oh,
possible.
or maybe I'm just a frequent visitor. It's
Yeah,
all
it's possible I make too many episodes.
it's all good.
I'll probably finish 150 just in this year. Uh,
Incredible.
so I have a question. Since now you've been here, like this is your third time, you've been a fractional CMO for a while. I'm going to give you a statistic, and then you can tell me what the hell's happening.
Mhm.
A year ago, I did a search on LinkedIn worldwide for the phrase fractional chief marketing officer, right? Or fractional CMO, in quotes with capital OR, because you have to capitalize all your ors and ands and nots on LinkedIn. It's picky that way. And there were, I think, approximately 3,000 and change worldwide, most of them in the United States. And I was connected to 23% of them. Now, when I do a search, I did a search a couple months ago, there were over 8,000 just 12 months later, from 3,000 and change, 34, 3,500 to like 81, 8,200. I'm still connected to 23% of them. So about 18, 1,900 fractional CMOs are my connections on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's an enormous explosion just in a year. What is happening?
Okay, it's a very interesting topic. So,
Okay.
first of all, definition. So, fractional is an extremely popular term today,
Yeah.
and it means I am working in some capacity that is not full time, with likely more than one client. Right? It's probably becoming a business that does services. Right? So what's happened is a combination of a few things, and let's have a conversation back and forth, not a speech by
Yeah.
minutes. Okay. Number one, it is not sunny day; it's rainy day in tech. That doesn't mean the whole U.S. and global economy is in problem. No, it's actually a more tech and specifically software, enterprise software, and SaaS problem, because coming out from COVID and the hyper growth, then
Mm-hmm.
super unrealistic growth at all costs setting, the switch was dramatic and relatively quick with high interest rate. And that meant that there's a lot of companies, unfortunately startups, that are not even late stage, not big companies, but the smaller ones, that were not viable anymore, or had to not spend on marketing, go to market as much as they used to, which means a lot of people pretty much lost their job. And that is reason one. Reason one is a lot of people on the bench.
Right.
And a common thing lately is, oh, I can be a consultant while I look for my next job, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. And we can dissect the pros and cons of that if you want a different day. So that's reason one. A big reason is tech is in trouble. Many smaller companies, like not let's say startup, either ran out of funding or did not see the light, or had to cut the costs and could not afford a marketer full time, or just said, sorry, we need to cut anyway. And one of the first things that goes, unfortunately, we can talk about it later, is marketing. Okay. So a lot of people find themselves on the bench, and now they are fractional, whatever, because they're looking for a job. And in the meantime, that's nicer than saying I'm looking for a job. And that's one. And I think it's an important thing and a good thing for people to do that, because it's good to look for a job. Second is, to do with that, it's not a 60 days, I'm looking for a job, 90 days, 120 days. It's becoming a year now for many people. Unfortunately, the most senior they are. That's what I'm hearing. And that means that this fractional thing needs to happen, because you can't just be a year without a job. You want to do something in the meantime, advise for companies, or take on clients that you would have never done full time for. And I see that as a massive positive, because two things. A, there's talent out there that is supply. So supply is very high.
Right.
Demand is not even close. So there's a supply demand, basic rule of economy issue. However, companies can now exploit, but not really exploit, take advantage of the situation and bring in good experienced talent earlier on than they could have, to help them with separate things and different things that they need in go-to-market, even at like 3-4 days a week, as a VP marketing earlier on of somebody more experienced. So people actually lowering their titles, going earlier on, reducing the total pay, but getting still enough paid as a part-timer. And it's becoming attractive while people are looking for a full-time job. And many people are taking 3, 4, 5 months stints, not like a year. I'm different. I'm an interim. I'm talking about fractional right now. They come on
Right.
for very short time, and then because they're looking full time. So high supply, low demand, and longer time to find a job, and many people looking for a job that are senior. So the market, the economy equilibrium is made us shift a little bit to cost and ability to find a role. So that's number one. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no. Go ahead.
So number one is the economy is let us have,
Right.
and supply and demand is that. The second thing is related, but not directly related. The more senior people that have done it a few times, being a head of sales, head of marketing, and so forth, have gotten a little bit sick of being in startup to startup to startup, and sometimes being the first grown up in the room,
Right.
sometimes being the person that is put on the spot first, while the founders, board, CEO continue with the company like, oh, we're not at 75% growth, we're at 62. Yeah, I got a market machine's broken. We need to find somebody who's done this before.
Mm-hmm.
And the turnaround time over the last many years, not just the last 1.5 years, roughly, that has been a challenge of supply and demand, is way too short. CMO and CRO stints are shorter. VP's marketing, VP sales stints are shorter.
Yeah.
And it takes a toll. People are reaching their 40s and later on. Again, I'm very happy to talk about myself. And seeing that it's really a hard grind. You're putting the entire mindset, approach, taking a while to find the job, taking a while to put in, like, bring the team, bring your people to the job. And then after 16, 18, 20 months, you're done because just things happened. Maybe your fault, maybe not, doesn't really matter. It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So not putting your eggs in one basket, but rather trying to find temporary roles, projects,
Right.
while you diversify and hedge yourself, just like a financial planning, seems to be attractive to people. And that's why people are refusing to go back to full-time roles at little companies, because A, the companies can get in trouble early and you don't have nothing to do with you. B, seems like the go-to-market function has taken a big hit in recent times, and that's a challenge, especially in founder mode on all of those comments, which really drive us crazy.
Hmm. All right. Yeah. All right. There's been a little over 200 or so guests, I guess, on the podcast so far, and a handful of times, people who were scheduled let me know, hey, I was fractional, but I was always looking for something permanent, and now I've been hired by somebody, so it's probably not appropriate to be on the podcast, which is correct.
That's good.
So if you're not a fractional CMO, you should not be on this podcast. And so yeah, and what I'm finding is some of them from the earliest ones. I mean, it's episode 138, right? What I'm finding is it happened very early, like episode 13, I think. And then the first time it happened, and that person was fractional when we talked full time by the time the episode came out. And so, like, this person actually was fractional when we recorded, but asked that I not air the episode, which I did not. And
That's fair.
yeah, it's fair. And but that person is now fractional again because the speed at which people
Yeah.
are being churned back out again puts them back into the fractional market. So it's a crazy topsy turvy kind of market right now.
Yeah, the unfortunate situation, and we can talk about it later on if you want,
Mhm.
is why are go-to-market leaders, true experienced leaders that have been around for, let's say, over 10 years, 15 years, I've been way more than that, but that's a different story. Why is this role more challenging than ever, and the tenure is relatively short,
Why is that? I
especially
want to
in
know.
late stage? Oh, you want to go into it now? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it now.
Well, okay, so I'll start with marketing and then sales and then go to market together. And I say this a lot, and it's controversial, and people get pissed off, and life is life. So
Mm-hmm.
marketing has no seat at the table usually,
Yeah.
because you don't own any of the three main KPIs of the board. And I know many, many CMOs, the peers of mine, say that they own pipeline, but I'm sorry, don't own pipeline. You are the main driver of pipeline,
Right.
but I've never seen a marketer in my life being able to put an account into pipeline and forecast. It's just, you're physically not able to do that because you're not the account owner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do you own pipeline as a number? You should, of course, you own pipeline, you should own all the main KPIs, but you don't own it. You're not the sole owner of pipeline, right? You're a co-owner of pipeline. Okay, that's one. Two is we don't own net retention, we don't own gross retention. That's not us. We are main contributors to those. So in sunny days, when everybody was, hey, every startup became a bank, not a technology company, right? Everybody took money because grow. Today you mention AI, you think you're going to get it. Now it's not actually the same way. And then we spent on marketing, sales, and we grew until the reset, which is a healthy reset now to drive effective growth. So in rainy day, in sunny day, it's easy. People were around, but then CFOs, boards started to say, okay, what's going on? Like, are we really growing well? Why are we spending so much? The first place that unfortunately still in the minds of VCs, especially boards, and also as the founders is marketing. If we stop, it's not good, but we know that in short term to live, we must drive sales because we have to close deals.
Right.
Okay. And even though the numbers, and I can give examples from my life, of marketing driving 70-80% of pipeline, truly driving, like owning, and even in high upmarket enterprise sales, it doesn't matter because if you nimble down, you still have to have a sales team. You still have to have some CS, some account management, and that's like, it is what it is. You can cut marketing first. And yeah, sure, do you still want to hang out to a bit of marketing and do some brand awareness and obviously demand? Yeah, but then the CMO becomes less a strategic partner to the CEO. You're cutting marketing strategy first. And that's a challenge for CMOs or marketing leaders of like VPs and above, let's say, of different functions, because marketing strategy is taking a back seat. Demand grow effectively by driving and closing pipeline very focused. The CRO gets elevated, okay, because we have to have him. That's the lifeline, the breathing air of the company, and which I understand, but that's a very short-term survival mode, and that is actually not something I truly believe. I think companies should stop that and think always future. Yes, and then take your CMO, make them 2 days a week. That is the perfect time for an interim or fractional role. Reduce costs, give them stock. I've reduced some compensation sometimes from mostly cash to mostly stock because the company asked me to. As an interim CEO, I loved it. I'm still here. I'm still part of the team. I'm a partner to the CEO. Okay, so that's I think one way, the rainy day, sunny day conversation I have. I think that's one. Now the second part of it is go to market is hard, especially if you're not PLG or SMB, micro SMB, and it's also not always an exact science. Unfortunately, there's a lot of data points, and there's tons of companies that are helping with that, and I advise a few of them, and it's great. And at the end of the day, if you want to drive effective growth, even very low growth, if your board is telling you it's okay, you don't have to go 40, 50, 70% once you reach 20, 30 million ARR, but we need to not reduce net retention. Most of your spend is now going to retention, account management, AE/AM hybrids, making sure you go and focus and close deals well, pipeline acceleration, top of funnel, and even awareness and brand get a back seat by default because that's what you're focused on. So again, it's similar to SendPoint, but it's different because you just need demand. Oh, guys, we just need demand now. We'll work on community, we'll work on awareness, we'll work later. Right now, we just need demand. And then life cycle marketing steps up and becomes a thing, but you don't need a CMO to manage some marketing. You do need, but they don't think so. So basically, it's a conflict of priorities, short term versus long term, and that is extremely bad, I think, for the companies because they're not going to grow later on. You gotta be smart. So my recommendation there is bring a very experienced or take the person you have and just ask them for 6 months, hunker down. Can we make a change? Otherwise, I have to let you go. I think that's a fair question.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast a while back, a few months ago. I don't know when it was made. And someone asked a question that I thought was a good question. And the answer was, I thought, very good. So the question was, why is it that now, even now, a quarter of the way through the 21st century, people still have a hard time justifying or proving an ROI for marketing? I mean, it's a good question. It's a mature function in a company, right? And the answer was a little counterintuitive, I thought. And the answer was the trap you can get caught in when you're the head of marketing and trying to prove its ROI is you get down in the numbers right away. And when you frame it as ROI, then of course it has to be about numbers. He said, but if you go up a level, you can see many examples in any industry you want to look at. There's at least one or two. He says, if the marketing function at a company is like really dialed in, like it really does a good job, it knows what it's doing, right? People understand the story inside. He said, when marketing is doing a great job, everyone else in the company gets to play the game of capitalism on easy mode, right?
Nice.
Cold calls get returned. Calls from the CEO, meetings happen, right? Oh, I've heard of you guys. I have a somewhat positive impression of you guys. Yeah, that might be interesting. Let's talk, right? He says if marketing is doing it right, everyone else's job gets easy. If marketing's not doing it right, it's very hard to prove that you're making anyone's job easy, and therefore you're trapped in the numbers. What do you think?
I'll start by a comment, and then I'm going to be super provocative.
Yeah.
Okay. The comment is my mantra, for example, when I join a company and usually upmarket, is never work a cold account again. That is my
That's a
promise
good
to
line.
deliver. Okay, that's like success. And it's, of course, command brand awareness, market awareness, demand, warm accounts, engage, like tons of things, life cycle marketing, all that, right? And it's similar to what you're alluding here is marketing is influencing everything. So, for example, what percent of our pipeline is influenced on marketing? 100%, always. It's a silly question. We have a website, you see, like it's always. Can I capture that and attribute it? Whenever the word attribution leaves the marketing team, then it's trouble, because then you're trying to understand what caused what. And that is going back to my comment earlier that there is no marketing KPI, marketing only KPI at the board level, ever. Right? Leads gathered, not important. Pipeline, dollars, revenue, ARR, like always the same. Net retention, we know that, right? So, and that's good because that's the business KPIs. So that's why this exists. Now, marketing's influence is everywhere. But now let's talk about the provocative comment. It is this whole thing about marketing. I actually, unfortunately, think that most boards and VCs don't understand B2B marketing. And that's unfortunate. And understanding it is just saying that everything that's in your target audience of relevant SAM, self just market,
Right.
just knows about you, converts better, and does better if marketing does its job. But that's a hard argument. It's not like they understand sales, like stage, conversion, customer. They understand funnels. They understand brand in the cloud, like very top level. But it's very hard to articulate what is true B2B marketing. And that's why it takes a back seat. That's why this argumentative. It's not very clear cut. As you said, it's not based on data, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's why always, whenever you say, you talk to board members, you talk to the founders, you talk to investors, and they all say, yeah, great, accounts and brand awareness and all that, and what we're doing, and it influences, yes. But then you go to a board meeting and they want to see exactly the same view of lead gen, and that's marketing slide. Sure, you can add a slide of what stuff we did, but like show us the leads. And that's, I think, a little bit of a challenge still in modern approach to true effective marketing and effective go-to-market that includes marketing and sales versus what companies and how companies are run are looking for with separate marketing and sales. And sometimes you got to stop the separation. You got to look at it together.
Yeah, I was in I was not participating but observing. I was in one of the chairs along the wall, not at the table, in a company's monthly meeting where once a month the various people on the executive leadership team had to give a presentation for like what they and their department had done to the CEO, and then the CEO would sort of like cherry pick certain slides, and in his, because it was a he, in his monthly meeting would show it to the board. And so at one point, the head of marketing, and this was an enterprise software company, so I don't know why they were advertising on Facebook in the first place, but had a slide that talked about how in the last month they had provided 3,000 leads to sales. Right, there were only like 30 people in all of sales worldwide. and if that. And the head of sales like chimed right in, and he says, "What the hell?" He swore, but what the hell are you talking about? He said, "You gave us 3,000 first names and Gmail addresses. Those aren't leads. They downloaded a PDF, but we'll never have the manpower to follow up with those people or call them. We have no idea if they're like even worth calling, and we didn't even get work email address, so we don't even know what companies were are interested in this." He said, "This is not leads. This is just noise." And I mean, it was very uncomfortable for both of them, I think, but especially for the marketing guy, because to him, success was through Facebook advertising. I mean, to understand, this is an enterprise software company, so any deal under $1 million would have been considered very small, right? And to him, his job was to get a bunch of people to give their first name and Gmail addresses, and then download a PDF talking about one of the company's products. To the head of sales, this was beyond useless. It had negative value because they would never have the resources, and nor should they, to like follow up with that sort of scale. Or and it was a black box. It was very opaque, right? Because it was mostly personal email addresses. They had no idea even what companies might have been interested. So yeah, I mean a disconnect, right? They have
It's an
different
extreme scenario of disconnect. And again, the funnel or go to market updates to the company, to the board, whatever it is, it has to be looked at together. Sure, you know who owns different parts, you know which teams, you know what budget related return on pipeline, as I like to measure, and cost per op and payback periods by marketing, by sales are important to measure because you want to know what works. But if you're just showing leads and you're just showing closed one, no, you got to show together. And I've always asked for that, and it's like I come in and I'm trying to convince the companies about it. And to add to that, like another extreme scenario is, unfortunately, I've met CEOs and founders who said, "Oh, I don't understand marketing." It's like, why don't we take care of that? Tell me how much, like, let's look at the budget and all that. But I don't understand. I don't want to get into it. But we brought you along. Please manage it. Yeah, that concerns me. It's like, you don't understand. We'll start understanding.
Yeah.
You're a CEO. You're a founder. Do you not understand sales? Tell me if your founder CEO comes and tells his board or her board that they don't understand sales. Like, that's going to be not a pleasant conversation.
Or doesn't understand the basics of how their main product is made.
You're the CEO. Learn. Work with the CMO and learn. Don't tell me you don't understand it and it's not a priority for you to understand it right now. I'll handle it. That's concerned. Because eventually you're going to ask questions which you weren't involved in.
All right. So let's talk about a couple of other things. In the last few years, especially, there have been a lot of new tools, new platforms, even some new thinking about like what marketing is and how to, and then of course the explosion of fractional CMOs. Looking out at marketing today, do you think, and when you talk to your clients, do your clients, are they like overrating something that you think there is not worth as much as clients think it is, and are they underrating something that you think they should be paying more attention to?
Interesting. Underrating in-person and the power of in-person, intimate and very focused events. And it's coming to more fruition as people are, again, we're now in a no-COVID period for a while now, so there's no reason not to do it. But the conception and understanding that events are expensive because they are expensive. Risky, because it's cost per head or cost of sponsorship is a risk. But that's where you get the magic, but you have to have a playbook and understand it. So events are expensive as a perception is an incorrect way. Its events have the ability, if done right, to do incredible leap forward of your pipeline acceleration and also ICP persona, true lead gen and demand creation. Companies are starting to get it, but that's like it's undervalued. It's like,
so events are underrated.
Correct. Like in a massive.
What's overrated?
Overrated is still LinkedIn, I believe.
Yeah.
But it's overrated because everybody's looking for the best data and the best place to reach the person you want and talk to them. But we need to, again, as people who are on LinkedIn, remember that LinkedIn has a place and it's wonderful. And I've spent in different companies a lot of money on LinkedIn, like significant. And it works, but only for what your journey and your buyer journey tells you. Which persona is it? First engagement, second engagement, third engagement? Is it depending on the on the vertical, on the segment? It does work, but don't make it your lead gen inbound funnel.
Right.
That's like you got to focus on
Yeah.
outbound for LinkedIn, and it's not just if you're up market and looking for a high level persona, or even just not even up market, and you're just starting off with like spamming them on LinkedIn for demo requests. Well, don't be surprised if they give you a Gmail address and never show up, or even never even respond. Very high no show rates. So again, LinkedIn is overvalued because everybody looks at it as the place to start putting a lot of money in versus understanding where it is in the buyer journey.
All right. Imagine this. Here's our hypothetical for this one. Imagine that you're the head of a company, okay, and you're going to go looking for a fractional CMO. And like you talked about earlier, demand has gone down over for the last little while, but supply has exploded.
Yes.
So now you have a different kind of problem. It's not that you can't find enough people to talk to find a good one or a great one. It's that there's so much noise versus signal that you've got, 1,000 people applying in 24 hours if you're crazy enough to post a job online. So like, how do you and your team, how do you find a great fractional CMO given sort of the explosion in supply and, people at various levels calling themselves fractional CMOs and stuff?
So it's basically you're trying to avoid the inbound,
Yeah.
explosion,
The
right?
crush. Yeah.
Just like in every targeted search, whether it's going after a persona or very enterprise sales motion, it's the same thing when you're looking for somebody who can do the things you're looking for, has the right experience, and hopefully has some cultural fit, which is hard to signal. You need to talk to them first, right? So
Right.
I would recommend not to post just and look at 1,000 in inbound because it's going to be sprayed and prayed. It's it's a weird tactic, but it's still okay. Go to the network, of people like yourself who've spoken to 200 plus. Go to people like myself or others who know a lot of part-time
Yeah.
people, and ask, like, I'm looking for this kind of profile. Go to communities you trust. Now, communities I'm not going to name, communities that are too big, there's going to be, again, it's like inbound again. You're going to
Right.
say, hey guys, I'm looking for a part-time. Okay, you want
Yeah.
fractional? Okay,
And then you
fractional.
have 300 DMs in your inbox.
Yeah, and then like, it's a popularity contest. Okay, great. Okay, the people who post on LinkedIn 4 times a day are the popularity contest
Mm-hmm.
winners, but are they actually doing any work or just posting? So that's a good question to ask yourself. So that's a tough one. So I would go to communities you trust. So the inner loops are communities you trust,
Right.
investors, VCs, board, CEOs of similar business model and stage of your company that say like, do you know or have especially your VCs and your PEs, like your investors, because they might know different portfolio companies, and then look at who has you seen that has done a CMO part that is now fractional, or the other way around, fractionals have moved to CMO, and ask them again. Again, it's a community, it's a network. You got to ask people. Okay,
Yeah.
put it.
Well,
Things that I don't like is I'm putting on LinkedIn like, hey, I'm looking for the best fractional CMO for cyber. Yeah, but then it's a popularity contest again. Like people tag like random.
mm-hmm.
To me, that's inbound again. It's like influencer marketing. Everybody's an influencer now because you wrote 17 times on LinkedIn this week. Yeah, that doesn't sift through the noise. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. I had this conversation with a client, and like he's 11 times CMO now over the course of decades. And I just asked because I was curious because I don't have an agency. I don't work for advertising agencies more so than marketing, but advertising agents tend to be my clients. They're about a quarter of my clients, and because of the kind of writing that I do. And I said, hey, I'm just curious, like, when you like start a new engagement, how do you find and choose an advertising agency or a marketing agency?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, usually I ask around. I said, how is that any different than 100 years ago? He says, I guess it's kind of not.
Not just. Just the communication
Oh,
vehicle has changed.
the technology didn't make it easier. They just made it easier to get volume, but not with quality, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, people's reputation and what they've done and experience and track record is still what matters when you want to hire somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'll be again provocative against myself. I rarely post on LinkedIn, which is a shame. I should do more. I don't speak as much as I used to, in different engagements and all that. And I don't go to a lot of conferences and trade shows anymore because I honestly don't always see the value. It's fun. It's nice meeting people, talking, always interesting, but it's not, the ROI is negative, truly. And also my personal life. So how would you find me, who might be a perfect fit if you're looking for a truly seasoned part-time or interim CMO for an upmarket enterprise software company, which is what I've done many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
You probably will learn about me from people that if you ask them. But if you post on LinkedIn for people to like mention, or if you post it into like a massive 10,000 people community of operators, you might not meet me. So it's hard. If you're looking for true help, don't think, again, you started with this saying the supply is massive. If you just ask for like, hey, tell me who is a good fit for this, you still might get the riffraff and not the true leaders on the space.
So let's invert that then. We talked about companies finding great people. Do you have any tips for, let's say, a fractional CMO? They just became a fractional CMO today. They were a full-time CMO for, let's say, 10 years, and they've decided to go out on their own. They're fractional, right? How do they find clients? What's your tip?
First of all, it's hard. Even I have challenges. Again, being candid, even I have sometimes challenges like finding the next big one. Even though I don't do like 5 different fractionals at a time, I do only one big client at a time, and I come in as a CMO. Finding fractional executive roles, it's again supply and demand are hard. What I would do is, again, reach out to network and post in the communities and say, hey guys, I've had these 3 things that I've done that are different than most people. If anybody knows anybody that's looking for that, good. That's just brand, that's like promoting yourself. And it's okay, it's still good. And then start having conversations, like start getting out there, go to roundtables, talk to your network, talk to any investor, VC, board member, CEO, even like peers of yours, and make sure that they know. And eventually, one of these companies will need somebody part-time. And then also, you can do outbound. There's nothing wrong with promoting your value outbound, not just saying, hey, look at me, but showing value, content, whatever it is, helping, inviting these people. It's not easy today. Candidly, it's not easy. It used to be very big inbound, but now it's not very big inbound world anymore.
I get asked that question by new fractional. I talk to a lot of fractional CMOs, as you might imagine. If you look at the last 12 months, maybe 500 of them. And a lot of them are new to the sort of experience of being a fractional CMO. And, in case anyone's never seen a clip of this before, or me, I'm not a fractional CMO, right? Yeah. I work with them. I'm one of the specialists that most of them have in a network with other specialists. They have an SEO person, and they have a graphics lady, and they have the sort of farmer type of copywriter who writes blog posts, and they have the hunter kind of copywriter like me who does outbound, all right, and talks to strangers, and or finds strangers, and you want to tell people something that's very, very useful without hurting anyone's feelings. And so what I tell them is the single biggest mistake I see, having talked to hundreds and hundreds of fractional CMOs who are out there looking for clients and stuff, is that especially for small businesses, there are marketing-driven small businesses and there are sales-driven small businesses. And the sales-driven small businesses, those fractional CMOs are out there, they're meeting people, they're talking, they're participating, right? They're trying to get referrals, they're reminding people they exist, right? And you're in a sales-driven fractional CMO business if all of your engagements are unique, right? No 2 customer projects are exactly the same. You're in a marketing-driven business if you sell the exact same thing to everybody. And that way, even if it's services and you've productized the service, so it might be a bucket, and inside the bucket might be a little different, but
Yeah.
it's this bucket or that bucket. I said, so I explained to them, I am in a marketing driven business. I sell three things. Now, three buckets, and customers can choose, oh, I want the things that are in this bucket, or I want the things
Yeah.
in this packet, and that's it, right? And so I can be in a market. I can focus on outbound. I can focus on telling the same thing to the world over and over and over, because at some point, some number of them are going to want to like pick up that bucket and give me money for it. I said, you're not in that kind of business. You're a marketer, but you're in a sales business. And I've got clients and a lot of fractional CMO friends who keep trying to look for the new silver bullet, so that they can spend money on a marketing tool because they just don't like sales. I say, you can spend as much money as you want on marketing tools, but you're not a marketing business. So in the end, it's almost always a waste of money.
It's a fair point.
Yeah. Some number of strangers need to know that you exist and what you sell. And in your case, because what you sell is different in some way or another to every single client, you need to focus on the number of people thing, not the number of know what we sell thing. Because they're going to hire the person instead of first and hire the deliverable second.
Yep, very much.
Yeah. But people keep wanting to be in the marketing business. I can't blame them. I mean, they're literally in a sales business hired to market to people. And yet, but that's not the business you're in.
For sure.
Just because you're a doctor who specializes in diabetes means that you need to have diabetes. Like that doesn't help anybody.
No, not at all.
All right, let's wrap it up. I have a question for you. So, and we talked about the economy a couple of times. This plan, right now with your clients, how is the economy is up and it's down? Who knows? It's crazy. Like the last few years have been crazy, right? Worldwide for the economy. How is that affecting? How is the economy affecting clients or companies' marketing priorities or their budgets right now?
I'll address it in three ways.
Yeah, sure.
The first is people are trying to find shortcuts. And this is not just my clients, but also conversations I have with prospects and companies that are probably too small for me to take on as a CMO. They fall into what I call advisory for me. And I have a few of those. Trying to cut corners, meaning bringing influencers or my people like advising that are equity only, but trying to use us to open many doors. Now, nothing wrong with that, but that's not a demand engine. Okay, so shortcuts are okay sometimes, but that's not a way to scale, right? Building a demand engine that's hopefully repeatable in some way and later on scalable is the right way. And sure, using brand, using influencers, using different social related aspects is important, but that can't be your engine. So that's just an example. Cutting it's not just it's okay and it's a good tactic and it's fine, but you need to have depth behind it as well. So that's one. So again, that one I summarize as companies are still trying to cut corners instead of investing, and it costs a bit of money and time, but you have to, because otherwise you're being opportunistic in a way. That's one. Second one is effective growth, and like in the clients I work with, and it's been there for a year and a half, even more now, is still the name of the game. How do we scale what we can? How do we build what we can? How do we become more focused, more targeted, more aligned to the audience and the current ICP, like really, really, really narrow? And then scale is always a conversation that I have with clients.
Right.
It's a scary one because we need more, but you're not being effective. You're burning through, and you're spraying and praying, or not even spraying and praying so much, but you're just going in the wrong direction or spreading yourself too thin. Focus, getting into like really a true playbooks and it focuses on the persona, the segment, or the ICP that you need is important, and that's what's changing. I think even more now. The oh shit moment of growth at all costs versus effective. Okay, effective is not the new norm. Hey, it's actually good. Now, how do we do that? So that's the conversation du jour, how to become effective and focus and spend only on what works, related back to our conversation, what's overvalued prior and what to use. I think the third thing, how marketing or go-to-market is shifting, is there was a whole shockwave of an AI and technology and automation is like, this is marketing, this is go-to-market.
Right.
And we were all like, really? No. Per function, it elevates them, it's productivity, it changes the game in many ways, and that's great. But it doesn't replace strategy, and it doesn't replace go-to-market. And I think now, after a bit of time, and people like myself and others talking about, wake up. It's not what changes the company completely. Sure, it can change your product, but it doesn't change your go-to-market or your strategy. Companies are understanding it, that AI is not a replacement strategy, but it's a disruptive, function by function enhancer or crack, if you want to say whatever it is. But it's not, you can't take your marketing and now have AI do it for you. That is a death spiral, which is unfortunate.
All right. Good answer. Okay. Well, it's time to wind down. Thanks for being here for the third time. I really appreciate that. That's kind of great. Who should be contacting you these days, and how should they get to you?
So I thank you for that. I work with two kinds of audiences. I'm simple. Early stage or pre-B run companies, if they need help on what not to do or how to go around being effective or true experience, they can just link in me or go and get in touch with me, and I help them with advisory, and I have a lot of those, and I'm happy. And even I am open for the next big client. I have only one client that I'm coming as a CMO for interim time, and that is more later stage companies, usually post C, bigger companies that are basically they're moving from one to many into one to few, and that's a significant change agent need in the company. And I've done that many times, and that's what I love doing. So those are the companies that I work with.
All right, and LinkedIn's the way to go. ALONWAKS.
Yes, simple.
All right, thanks for being here for the third time. Maybe there'll be a fourth time.
Who
It's
knows?
always good to talk to you.
Cheers, Dean. All the best.
All right.